Finally, let's look at pairwise competition. So in pairwise competition, we're going to pair up every candidate. So the first thing, before we try to work out the point values for these pairwise competitions, let's pair them all up. So we have A versus B. Then A would also go up against C. A would go up against D. A would go up against E. Next, we would take B against everyone. Now, B's already been up against A, so then we just do B against C, B against D, B against E, and that's it. So notice, because there's 5 candidates, A goes up against 4 candidates, B goes up against 4 candidates. So every candidate is going to have 4 battles because there's 5 candidates total. Let's do C next. C's already been up against A and B in my list, so we would take C against D, C against E, and then the last battle would be D, which has already been up against A, B, and C, so D would be against E, and by the time we get to that last D against E, E has been through everyone already. So if you create this little triangle, you should get every battle. All right, so now let's actually run the battles. One way I like to run the battles is I like to think about each of these preferences for in the table as looking at whoever is above because of how we rank this. Higher choice or first choice is higher than second, which is higher than third. Anyone that is higher up in any particular column is winning those votes in a battle. So if I'm looking at A and B, think about where A and B are in this column. A is below B, so that means A is losing to B. In other words, B wins all 3 of those votes. So I'm just going to put a little 3 underneath B. And then we go to the next column and just do the same thing. In this case, though, A is above B, so 4 votes go to A. In the next column, B is on top, so those next 4 votes go to B. In the next column, A is above B, so A gets 6 more votes. B is above A in the next one, so B gets 2 votes. In the next column, A is above, so A gets those 2 votes. And then in the last column, A is on top, so A gets 1 vote. Now you want to add up those votes. A is getting 13 if we add those up, and B is getting just 9. So A is clearly winning that particular battle. Okay? And so we want to do this repeatedly, and this does take some time to, just go through and look at A and in comparison to every candidate, and some tallies along the way. So you want to do this taking your time. I'll do a couple more here, and then I think I'm just going to go ahead and put the results up. So let's take a look at A against C. So in the first column, C is above A, so 3 points go to C. Second column, C is above A, so those 4 go to C. In the next column, C is still above A, so those 4 votes go to C. In the next column, C is above A, so those 6 votes go to C. Now, I could keep going here, but you may be able to tell C has overwhelmingly got most of the votes already. 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 6, that is 17. That's more than half the votes of the 22 that are participating. So you keep going if you needed to, if I had asked you about how many votes each got in that particular battle, but you can already tell that C won. So sometimes that's the case, but it can be handy to just keep looking just to make sure we've got this down. In the next group, A is above C. In the next group, A is still above C. And last group, A is above C. Remember how I talked about checking yourself? In every single battle, you should have 22 votes. Here, C has 5, or A had 5 rather, and C has 17. That's 22 votes. So you should always have 22 votes that you're adding up all together. But as I mentioned, you may, as you're going through looking at these battles, be able to tell pretty quickly that one candidate is winning over another. All right, next grouping, A versus D, next battle, I should say. A wins the first 3 votes. A wins the next because A is above D. The next 4. Then D is above A, so D wins the 4 in the third column. D is above in the fourth column, so D wins those 6. A is above D in the next column, so A wins 2 votes. In the next group of 2, A is above D, so A wins those 2 votes. And finally, A is above D in the last one. So we have 3 plus 4, which is 7, plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 is 12 votes, and D only had 10, so that means A wins that battle. Let's do A's final battle. In A's final battle, I'm going to circle as I go just to make sure I don't lose anybody. A is above E in the first group, so that's 3 votes for A. In the second group, A is also above E, and A is above E in the next group. So A gets 3, 4, and 4 from those first 3 groups. In the next group, A is still above D, or E rather, so A gets 6 votes. And at this point, you could probably tell A is overwhelmingly getting more votes. They've got more than half of those 22 votes, so you could just go ahead and circle that. If you do continue, though, you'll see that A wins 1 more vote, and E actually wins 2 and 2 or 4 votes. But you can see overwhelmingly A won. So in this pairwise competition, what we've done all of A's votes so far. So we're going to, one of the things we're going to look at in the end is how many wins A had. Wins for each candidate. So A right now we can see had 3 wins, because we've looked at all of A's battles. But we haven't looked at all of B's battles, or all of C's battles, or all of D's battles, or E's battles. We know right now that C won 1, but we don't know, we haven't looked at any of other battles for C. So let's go ahead and look at some of these other battles. I'm going to pause and write down some of the scores. You can check that, and then we'll come back and compare. All right, so I've gone ahead and tallied up the head-to-head battles with B against C. B against C, B will get 10 votes, C will get 12, so C wins. When you do B against D, B will get 9 votes, D will get 13, so D wins. If you do B against E, though, B finally wins 1, B gets 13 votes compared to E's 9. C versus D is kind of interesting because you get 11 votes for each. So this is a tie between these two candidates. Remember, a tie in pairwise competitions means they each get a half a point for a win. C versus E, C handily wins with 17 votes compared to E's 5. Notice with all these vote tallies, we've got 22 votes every single time because there are 22 people voting for each of these head-to-head battles. I'll do one more vote to make sure we've got this idea down. If I do E versus D, if I look at the first column of votes, D is above E, so D gets those 3 votes. In the second column of votes, with these 4 people, D is again above E. D is higher than E, so those 4 votes go to D. In the next column, D is still above E, so D gets those 4 votes. In the next column, D is at the top, so they are definitely above E, so they get 6 votes. In the next column, E is higher, and in the next column after that, E is higher, so E gets 2 and 2 more. And then in the last column, E is higher, so we get 1 vote going to E. So we tally that up. I get 17 votes going to D, 5 going to E, and D handily wins that race. So now I tallied up that A had won 4 of the battles, but I hadn't tallied it up for the other candidates. So I have C winning 1, 2, 3, and a tie. So 3 whole battles is what C won, and then a tie means half a vote for C. So 3.5 wins for C. I skipped B by accident. Let's go back to B. B won once, so that's 1 win for B. And then for D, we had 1 full win and then a tie, so that would be 1.5 votes for D, or wins, I should say, 1.5 wins, not votes, 1.5 wins. And then E, if you look carefully, lost all of their battles. so E lost all, so they had 0 wins. And with pairwise competition, you first look at all of the pairwise battles, who wins each one, but then how you make the decision on the overall winner of the election is you look at who had the most wins overall with the pairwise battles. And if we look at these numbers now, A had 3 wins, B had 1, C had 3.5. 3.5 is much bigger than anyone else's. Well, it's technically a half a vote, a half a win more than A's, but it's much bigger than B's, D, or E's. So C wins that battle. Now, or this election, I should say. They won 3.5 battles technically. So there is one way you can check this, because one of the common mistakes in pairwise competition is forgetting one of the pairwise competitions. So one quick way to tell if you've got everybody is that if you have, one thing you could do is count up the battles you had, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and make sure that you have 10 in terms of your wins. So I have 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 3.5, that's 7.5, plus 1.5, that's 8. That doesn't count up correctly. What did I do? So here's an example of missing something. So I missed counting. D had 2 wins plus the tie. So D, and it took me a while to see that, should have been 2.5, not just 1.5. So I missed that. Luckily, it still doesn't change my total, my overall answer. But let me add this up again now. 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 3.5 is 7.5, plus 2.5 is 10. So there's wins. So I didn't mean to make a mistake there, but sometimes it's good when you see me make a mistake, because I'm checking, and when I check, that's when you can catch mistakes. There's so much going on in pairwise competition that it can be easy to miss something. In this case, I counted up D's wins incorrectly. But the overall winner still is C, because I did calculate C's correctly, and C was still higher than D after I did that calculation correction. All right, that's it.